We live, we live. All right, I gotta put this show together. I have to find. Let's see. Where did I write down field sobriety tests? Oh, I was supposed to do field sobriety tests in the stream. Did I ever do them? I think I did. I think I did actually. Um, we're about to watch a. I've seen the first like 3 minutes of it, and I just found this channel. It's kind of like Jubilee, but it's just. I think it's all about Aborsh, and there's like Aborsh doctors sitting down and talking with women who had the Aborsh. What up, Rome? And it's pretty sad. I think I'm gonna watch this while I put my little show together here. I need to get my headphones there in the other room. As far as the show today goes, what is tomorrow? 11/11. Tomorrow's 11/11. Let me find the video. Then I'll go grab my headphones and we can watch this. Ministry of Efficiency. Elon Musk. Liked videos. Go over here. I don't know why I'm so tired today. It's called Live Action. The channel's called Live Action. Human rights begin here. Live Action.
Deadpool and Wolverine streaming November 12th on Disney Plus. Watch again.
Come again?
And again. And again.
And make sure she wasn't bleeding.
Order for Simone's.
Could you see?
Okay, I gotta go get my headphones. I got a freaking. I got a little motorized scooter. It's pretty cool. I haven't ridden it yet. But it's like one of those bird scooters or lift scooters, but I don't have to pay for it. All right, let's watch this. Let me put this show together.
Could you see that those were babies?
Did I know those were human beings? Absolutely.
57
I
minutes.
didn't care. I did not care.
It's pretty crazy. All right.
All right, well, thank you all so much for being here. Everyone here has a different story. Patricia, Gigi, Emily, you having experienced having had abortions, and Dr. Levatino, Dr. Robinson, and Dr. Altman having performed abortions in the past. So I'd like to start with each person sharing their involvement with abortion briefly. maybe how many abortions performed or had, and the kinds and the time frame.
I got pregnant at 17 and had an abortion using RU-486 drugs. And then 7 months later, I got pregnant again and had another abortion using RU-486 drugs.
Yes, I had multiple abortions, 5.
It's me for Presto.
I did the surgical abortion with the suctioning during first trimester. And I had also the medical, the abortion pill.
I also had multiple abortions. I had 3 at the age of 19, and they were all surgical. And then I worked as an employee behind the doors of Planned Parenthood.
What kind of abortions were you involved with as an employee at Planned Parenthood?
So it was a D&C and the dismemberment also. Up to 20 weeks was involved.
Dr. Altman?
And I was on the other side. I probably did 500 abortions. And I also had an abortion, which is why I think I was so
500.
gung-ho, so pro-abortion when I started my residency, because I had my own abortion just prior to entering medical school, because I thought if I was pregnant, I wouldn't be able to become a doctor.
What kind of abortion did you have, Dr. Altman?
D&C with suction.
Can you just explain briefly what a D&E abortion is?
So a D&E, or as it's also called and is more descriptive, a dismemberment abortion, during that, usually you have to dilate the cervix ahead of time, usually the day before, with some laminaria, something that will expand the cervix. And then you go in with a suction tube to remove the fluid and bring the baby down lower into the uterine cavity so that you can then reach in with a forceps and with a clamp, and you just try
Squish
to
it.
grab whatever you can grab.
Horrible.
And pull and twist, and the cervix is smaller than the baby, so the
crush
baby
it.
will be held back, and as you pull, you can pull off an arm or a leg, and once you've gotten all the arms and legs, then you try to go back. And I always tried to get the head next, because if you got the thorax and pelvis and just left the head.
See, I've listened to this. I stopped listening at this part because I wanted to look up something. I thought thorax was only for bugs. So I thought this was like dehumanizing abortionist language to call it a thorax. But I Googled it, and I don't know if this is new, but when I was a kid in school, only insects had head, thorax, and abdomen. Well, maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe I'm just misremembering, because we do have an abdomen. But piece by piece, yep. But thorax sounds very dehumanizing, but I guess it is scientifically, we do have a thorax. So when I heard her say that, I was like, why do they talk like that? Why are they calling a baby's body a thorax? Like it's a bug. But I was wrong about that. I looked it up, and we do have a they do call this our thorax. It's just not a word I would use on a human.
You have this little round ball that's trying to get away from you. So I would try to get the head, and as Dr. Levatino has described in the past, you know when you've gotten the head because the white brains leak out, and then you know you've gotten it. And then you just try to make sure you get the placenta and put all the body parts together. Now, I never did what they do at Planned Parenthood. I never sent that tissue to someone else to look at. I always stopped what I was doing, looked right then, because I needed to immediately know before I let that patient out of the stirrups that everything was complete, or she could come back with an infection or die. So then I would just check to make sure that all of the walls of the uterus seemed to be a little scratchy and it didn't have anything else. You know, I would put the suction back in and make sure she wasn't bleeding too much, and then I'd let her go to recovery.
I was
Why am I so
involved in
tired
abortion
today?
in my training as a resident, also moonlighting or sideline hustle in Southern California. So I performed several hundred abortions, all in the first trimester, the DNC suction type of abortions. But during my training, I did witness saline abortions. I did see very mature, second, third trimester babies, which now we see in the NICU and lots of hospitals that I have witnessed. So hundreds of abortions over several years.
I learned to do first and second trimester abortions, including suction DNCs and saline abortions during my residency program. After I got into private practice over the next 4.5 years, I performed almost 1,200 first and second trimester abortions, including suction DNCs and suction D&E abortions.
What does it feel like to talk to a former, for those who have experienced abortion, had abortions, and you yourself too, Dr. Allman, but what has it felt like to talk to former abortionists?
I never thought this day would come. I kind of compartmentalized or pushed the doctors, the staff
Exit
to the back
polls.
of my mind. And so I intentionally tried to forget everything that would happen behind those doors. And so this is really informative, and it is a bit of a shock that, this wasn't just a quick experience or quick fix is what they like to call it, but this was an entire process of murder.
For me, it's very healing.
Hate seeing ads? Here's how to get rid of them or get paid to see them.
I
Do you
just
know how
click
much of the
next
content you
when
see
they
on a
start.
daily basis are actually...
I went through a process of healing, just like Gigi mentioned. Not only did I have to forgive my partner, I was pretty passive during one of my abortions, but I had to forgive all who failed, right? Society with their lies, the educators who came in my school when I was a little girl, and also the abortionists that I felt lied to me, like they failed me, like you failed me, right? And so now that I'm publicly speaking, as a former worker, I know the courage that it takes, and I know that you're doing reparation for what was done, and I just want to thank you for your courage.
How do you feel the abortionists failed you?
Because I worked behind the doors of Planned Parenthood, and when I started to work there, they trained me to change my vocabulary, right? So, they told me never use the word baby on abortion days, fetus, mother, father. You tell the women it's a sack of tissue. You never let them see the ultrasound.
You call it a thorax
But I was the
instead
one
of
that
a
had to look for
body.
the body parts. I didn't know when I assisted the first abortion that I had to look for body parts. I seriously, with my whole heart.
And this lady is an ex-abortionist, and she was about to cry, so she regrets it, but she still uses that dehumanizing language. Even though thorax is a scientific term, it's still very dehumanizing. When I say thorax, I'm thinking of an insect. So it's like they're just removing a parasite or an insect from the birthing person instead of removing a baby from the mother. It's wild.
Thought I was going to look for a sack of tissue, because that's what I was told before my 3 abortions. But to my shock and my surprise, there were babies, right? And so immediately I thought, they lied to me. They failed me, They convinced me to kill my children when they told me they were sacks of tissues and clump of cells. They denied me the right to see the ultrasound. And so I had to heal from that.
I feel similar. There was a time in my life when I was very, very angry with abortionists, specifically the abortionist that gave me the pills for both of my abortions. I was angry because I felt that he understood the development of my baby my babies, and I did not. And I felt like I had been deceived in a sense because I wasn't given the full story, the full truth. And getting to sit here and hear your stories and see the redemption in you guys is just incredible. And I'm very, very thankful for that. And it's so healing for both sides to be able to find forgiveness and truth. And I'm just so thankful for the work that you guys are doing, and I love you guys.
The Department of Justice
I have a
will
confession to
investigate
make
Big Pharma.
to you guys, just in proxy of the abortion doctors that I encountered and staff, but every time I would go, I would lie on the paperwork. I would lie about how many previous abortions I had because I was ashamed for the staff to know. Even though it was your job, this is where these things happen, this is where, killing innocent babies happen, I somehow felt shame and didn't want you to know that I had previous abortions. And so I would lie on the paperwork to the point where even today I have to work my mind to even figure out the numbers and to figure out the dates and to, I suppress so much of that memory. And so it leads to my question, did you know if women lied? Could you tell if she had multiple abortions? How often did women come in with multiple abortions? Was there red flags? Was there, just the numbers, the stats on what you saw in those?
A liar is a murderer. When we talk about abortion stats, the reality of it, I know in our facility or the facilities I've worked in, you'd make up numbers. I mean, who's really counting and who's going to check? You know about how many you've done. It's, oh, well, this month we did so many. It's depersonalized. And if you're killing babies, lying about how many you do, that's nothing, right? As I've gone through this process of sitting with former colleagues where we kill children and facing off with your faces, the faces of women who we took their babies away and the babies whose faces that we never see, just brings forth the reality of the depravity of men and women and what we're capable of. And when you put a face on it, it makes it real. And my thoughts are brought to a particular abortion I was involved in with my late wife, Dr. Johnson. He performed an abortion on her sister. Mm-hmm. We killed our niece or nephew. Mm-hmm. Each one of these abortions has a vast consequence. My niece or nephew would have been in their 40s right now. My sister.
I've said that before, Rome. I've said if they're going to be legal and they're going to keep happening, the woman should have to stay awake and watch what happens.
Sister-in-law had one child at the time. That child was killed in a boating accident. We killed, which would have been her only surviving child. And that sister-in-law is childless now because of the abortion we performed on her. That should tell you a little bit about the capability and the depravity that we have within us, that we know it's spiritual, but I take responsibility for that, to be in that room and assist in the killing of a personal relative. Mm-hmm. And so it's a wake-up call that we are fighting an intense battle against a formidable enemy, but we still have to take personal responsibility at the same time.
When I returned to do abortions after my baby was born, I did abortions throughout my pregnancy and with no regrets. But when I went back after my baby was born, I ran into 3 patients who changed my mind, and I could no longer kill babies just because they weren't wanted. The first one was a girl who I had personally done 3 abortions on. She was using abortion as birth control, and I went to the clinic manager and I said, I don't want to do this abortion. She's had 3. I've done them. And she said, well, that's her right. You have no say so. You need to do that abortion. I said, well, that's easy for you to say. You're not doing the killing. I don't think I ever judged any of my patients prior to that. But at that point, I thought, no, this is wrong. And thankfully, for that girl, that was the beginning of the end for me. So I was thankful that, well, she couldn't have lied because she was in our records and I knew I had done them. But somehow for me, knowing that I had done 3 abortions on one woman, one girl, young girl, was unsettling.
I have a question that I've always wondered. When I had to look for the body parts, the 5 pieces of the baby, the first time I knew that was a human being. Like, the scales fell off my eyes, and I was literally in shock. And the abortionist came in to make sure that everything was in the Petri dish, right? This big dish that we had. And he was whistling, and I remember him saying to everybody, "What are we all gonna have for lunch?" When before this abortion, he told me to tell the young woman it was not a baby, it was a sack of tissue. And I remember screaming inside of myself, how can he not see what I'm seeing? And my question is, could you see? Could you see that those were babies?
I can answer that for myself. I cannot speak for any other abortionist in the world. Did I know those were human beings? Absolutely. I didn't care.
Damn. Wow. I'm glad he's honest. They all know they're humans.
The American flag is a symbol of.
Bro, Glenn was debating with this lady last night, and he's like, life starts at conception. 97% of biologists agree with this, which is a fact. And she's like, no, that's just some religious stuff. That's just something religious people
What
say.
America stands for.
And he's like, well, no, I'll pull it up for you. He pulls up the study and reads it. He says 187 biologists from across fields, across the world, different countries, different biology labs were all polled and asked or something, when does life begin? 97% say life begins at conception. That's when new DNA is formed. A zygote is formed. The zygote is part of the human life cycle. Human life cycle. And the girl's like, no, 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 I don't believe that. That's just some religious stuff. He's like, no, I just read it to you. This is from like PubMed. This is like a science place. Now, granted, uh, since forever, more than 50% of scientists, I don't think it's ever dropped below 50%. Currently, I think we're at 52% of scientists are Christian, at least in America. I'm not sure about the whole world, but in America, 52% of scientists are Christians. Um, and it's never been below 52. It's gotten down to like 50, but always half or a little over half of scientists are Christians, which makes sense in America. Um, Now, I'm not sure if that applies to the same principle or same statistic for the rest of the world, but so of that 97% of scientists that say life begins at conception, 52% of those are Christian, but it's still not a religious stat. It's common sense, by the way, that when new life, at conception, new life is formed, new human DNA, new human life. And the abortionists know this, scientists know this. I think the women who get the abortions know this. They just deny it. It's just a religious thing. I hate when people say, Joe Rogan has said it. Everybody says this. They say the reason people are against abortion is because it's a religious argument. No, it's an epistemic argument. It's how we know what we know. We know life begins at conception. Scientists know this. Anybody with 2 brain cells to rub together knows this. Life begins at conception. And if you're saying that morals and right and wrong are just religious principles, then I guess you're right. And then in that case, let's all just start eating people, and it's crazy. Oh, it's just a religious argument that you don't like abortion. No, because even most non-religious people agree that murder is wrong.
I did not care.
For me, and I don't know the mechanism, I don't know the mental mechanism taking place, but for me, I guess I knew they were human, but it was very schizophrenic. But my interest was extremely scientific. I didn't see the difference between them and a chick embryo, or a frog that we dissected.
Right, that's why they use
I thought
words
they
like
were
thorax.
beautiful. Again, I don't know how this is possible, but I had the same reaction as Abby Johnson, that when I looked, I thought, oh, look at the little toes and look at the little fingers. They're so amazing. But somehow I didn't see them as little people, that were worth caring about. If the mom wanted her baby and she was miscarrying, I was distraught with her. But if she didn't want her baby, then I was willing to dispose of that child, of that baby. And it wasn't until I read an article comparing abortion to the Holocaust that I suddenly realized that I could do these terrible things because I didn't consider them human beings. I didn't see them as human. And I guess more like animals. Although I can't imagine myself being willing to pull off the arms and legs of a little kitten, I probably would have had
Damn,
more sympathy
facts.
for that.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. These crazy cat ladies, I'm vegan. I don't eat animal. You're murdering animals, but you're pro-abortion. That makes sense. You wouldn't dare hurt a kitty cat, but you'll rip a baby out limb by limb. Not this lady. She regrets it. She's repentant, but these people that are still on the side of it.
But somehow there's this darkness that clouds your mind, and you can do things that you would never think possible. I thought I was a good person. I also have to apologize. I really thought I was helping women and had no idea the trauma, and the scarring that I left in my wake. All the girls that I did abortions on were young girls, college students, probably some high school students, all for normal pregnancies. None of them were for maternal indications or fetal indications. They were all just normal babies. And I do worry about what happened to those women later, because I know for me, it was very traumatic once I realized what I had done, once I'd had a baby, how traumatic it was for me. And again, I also went through a post-abortal syndrome. Thankfully, I had people around who could give me the counseling and the healing that I needed to heal. And I also have to admit, unlike you felt more guilty because of your involvement in other people's abortions. I felt more guilty that I could actually kill my own child as opposed to killing other people's children. Not that either is less, but I had more trouble forgiving myself for killing my own child.
We've talked about that process of how you become progressively insensitive, desensitized to you as a human being, and desensitized to the human being that's inside of you that I'm about to kill, as long as you give me the money. But I think I'm also recognizing there's superimposed on that a switch that puts those scales on, the same way I could take glasses off and glasses on. A Dr. Jekyll, Mr.
that I'm
Hyde.
one of the most
You see,
unpopular
I can be
candidates
down
in
the hall
history, even
and
with the
deliver
entire
a
mainstream.
live baby, be involved with labor and delivery, and it's good old Dr. Robinson, happy and encouraging her to push. Yeah, because the baby's almost here, and here's the baby, cut the umbilical cord, and everybody's happy. And walk a few feet down the hall, Dr. Jekyll or switches to Mr. Hyde, and I kill the baby. Same person, same doctor, but I don't believe they're really the same person spiritually. The enemy has the capability of manifesting himself in you appropriately. And again, I take responsibility for that, but you're actually able to flip a switch almost instantaneously from healer to killer.
Well, I think both doctors and moms do that. So easy to talk about somebody else's life, but if I talk to a group, I remind them of something. Today, you're an adult. Once you were a child, you didn't look anything like you look today. Once you were this big, but it was always you. And try to personalize it, because you're right. We can turn it on and turn it off. We learned that in medical school, day one. If I'm doing surgery, hysterectomy, nothing to do with abortion. For that hour, that's a collection of arteries, nerves, veins. Don't cut the ureter, get the uterus out, make sure she doesn't bleed too much, don't let her get infected. And I know intellectually that she's a mom and a wife, and she has family and people that love her. But for that time, that's the job. An abortion is the same.
You know, I never had any regrets about what I was doing or any qualms until I was doing my neonatal rotation. And I realized that I was killing babies the same age as ones I was trying to save. But the training is so effective, and you learn to compartmentalize so well that I just was able to shove those thoughts to the back of my mind.
That's
and I
crazy.
didn't think about it again.
I have a question because
That's crazy. She was killing babies the same age as one she was trying to save when she was doing neonatal care, when she was when there were problems during the pregnancy and they're trying to save the baby. So in one room, they're trying to save these, 20-week-old babies, 18, 20, 22, 24-week-old babies. And in the other room, they're ripping them out and throwing them in a dish. That's crazy.
I used to, how do I say this word? I used to think it was okay that if I aborted early enough that the baby wasn't harmed, that there wouldn't be too much damage to myself. I thought the blob of cells, the tissue. And I always wanted to know when that vacuum was finally turned off. Where did the baby go?
Medical waste. Medical waste. Or to
At your clinic, it went to medical waste, and a lot of places they sell it. What was Dr. Caesar Santangelo in Washington, where they found like 5 babies in the dumpster. They buried that story. We covered that story years ago. Savannah Hernandez covered it. They buried that story, but he was illegally aborting babies and then selling them. They sell them for stem cell research. They sell them for other things that I'm not allowed to say on YouTube.
pathology to be sectioned.
I know in some facilities they actually refer to the area where the remains of these killed babies are as the nursery.
Wow.
We had a big freezer in our facility, so a biohazard would come in monthly, so it wouldn't smell like death and rotten. We would tie the bags at the end of the day, the biohazard bag with all these dismembered babies inside, and open up the big freezer, and you would see blocks of ice of all the aborted children from the month.
What was that moment, perhaps, when you came to see this is a life my child, other people's children. And was there a moment after that where you felt despair? And can you describe what that was like? Did you ever feel despair after coming to see, or maybe you're in the process of beginning to see, these are children, these are human beings?
For me, it was when I was pregnant with my son. I was about 10 weeks pregnant with him and was looking at pregnancy apps and reading about his development, and it just dawned on me that the baby that I had aborted years previously was that exact same gestational age, and all of these facts that I didn't know about their development just broke my heart. And I was in despair for years. I struggled with alcoholism. I struggled with thoughts of suicide. I struggled in just about every way that a person can feel shame and grief and regret. And I still struggle. It's still hard, but I know that sharing is healing and that I'm going to continue healing, and just want to do what's right now and honor my children by trying to warn other women.
The first abortion I assisted, it was a 12-week baby, and my first abortion was at 16 weeks. And when I saw the baby completely formed, that's when my heart broke. You know, and I realized, you know, that I had killed my own children. But I felt, after working there, I felt guilt, shame, and I remember thinking to myself, you can like mess up your credit history, and you can repair that. That can be repaired, and that can be fixed and wiped out. But how can you undo this? How can you undo murder? How can you undo so many babies' lives that were taken? And I felt completely hopeless.
I think I experienced more despair having an abortion in a shower. Doing the surgical abortions where I was under...
Yeah, they don't talk about when they take these abortion drugs, they have to sit on the toilet or go in the shower and evacuate what's left of the baby. And then you can see it in the toilet. You can see it like, that's crazy. And then they just flush it.
some kind of sedation or what, not quite sure what it's called. And so in those moments, I was less conscious, not fully unconscious, but less conscious. But that one in the shower where I had to stand there and bleed out to death, it felt like. And my boyfriend at the time is in the bedroom crying.
Hey, sorry,
because he begged me not to do it. And he's crying.
You mean your boyfriend begged you not to kill his child, and he had no choice in the matter? There was no legal ramifications, and you were encouraged to do it by the world? Sucks for him.
After a long day, there's nothing better than having reliable...
It's too late at that point. And I remember forcing myself not to look down because I didn't want to see. And when it was all over, I just forced myself not to look at the apps, not to research, not to Google the truth. And it wasn't until I went through a post-abortion program that part of the homework assignment was to read each week. And it was in that moment that I read that there was not a week acceptable, that there was not a day acceptable to take that life, to stop a life. And so that's when it really hit me that this is unacceptable.
Yeah, I feel in some ways despair, as you mentioned, and overwhelmed. I'm here, witnessing and hearing what you ladies are sharing, but you guys are the tip of the iceberg. Because when we do the math, whether
There's
it be
millions,
of abortion survivors or
more than 600,000 a year just in America.
Post-abortive women, we are talking about millions of women who haven't even started the process or even know about the process you're going to. How are we going to get these women to give them the help that you're exposed to, that they need to, so they can start their journey, so they can start humanizing the child that they've lost? And because right now, so many of these women are just blended into our environment at McDonald's or a restaurant or right in our own workplace. right in our church congregations, and we're pretending they're not there. We have a supernatural task ahead of us to try to help some of these women.
I used to make $800 in 15 minutes doing a D&E abortion, and I was dedicated. I tell people, some people say they're pro-life or pro-choice, but when you're a gynecologist and you say you're pro-choice, this isn't some vague political position. You have to decide.
Yeah, JLP interviewed a guy that was an abortion doctor, and he went from doing the early ones, like the suction and the chemical stuff, and he went to doing the later ones where what that lady was explaining, where you pull them out with the forceps because um or the tongs or whatever they call them. And Jesse kept pressing him, said, "Why did you go up to that one? Was it because you get paid more money?" The guy wouldn't admit to it, but they were showing stuff on the screen. Yeah, you make a lot more money if you do the late term abortions.
Decide whether you're going to do those abortions. And I did. I was dedicated to it. And you can rationalize it 1,000 ways. I'm the hero here. I'm being a great doctor, taking care of her problem and all of this. My wife and I had struggled with infertility. We were able to adopt a little girl we named Heather. Subsequently, my wife did get pregnant very quickly after we adopted our daughter. But exactly 2 months from my daughter's 6th birthday, she was killed in an auto accident. And I don't remember how long it was after her death, but I showed up at the hospital to do a D&E abortion. Wasn't thinking of it as anything special. This was routine. Put that Sofer clamp in, ripped out an arm or a leg, and just stared at it in the clamp and got sick. But once you start an abortion, you can't stop. You have to get 2 arms, 2 legs, and all the pieces. Because if you don't, your patient will come back infected, bleeding, or dead. So I finished that abortion. I said earlier that I didn't care, and I didn't care. It wasn't that I suddenly saw unborn babies as human beings. I always knew they were human beings. But this was something different. For the first time in my career, after all those abortions, I looked. After everything that what we were going through, losing a child, I looked. I really looked at that pile of body parts. And I didn't see her wonderful right to choose, and I didn't see what a great doctor I was helping her with her problem, and I didn't even see the $800 cash I just made in 15 minutes. All I could see was somebody's son or daughter. That was the change. That was the change right there. Now, I didn't stop doing abortions right away. I knew why I felt bad, and I'll get over this. So I soldiered on for months after that. But once you see, for me, it wasn't, well, this is a human being. It wasn't that at all. It was, this is someone's son or daughter. That was the change that eventually got me out of the abortion business.
I had 2 major things that happened. Somehow after having a baby, I made that baby fetus connection, and after these 3 different patients, I realized I could no longer kill babies just because they weren't wanted. But it wasn't until several years later, I'd become a Christian, still believed in abortion, but at one point a Christian friend came to me and said, "Kathy, I know you feel strongly about abortion, but would you read this article?" And the article compared abortion to the Holocaust, and my father was present when the first concentration camp was liberated, and so I grew up with all those pictures and stories, and I could never understand how the German doctors could do what they did until I read that article, and suddenly I realized that just as I didn't consider my victims as human beings, they didn't consider their victims as human beings. And that was when the scales fell, and suddenly I saw myself as a mass murderer. And that was truly devastating, because here I thought I was doing so much good, and yet I was doing so much evil. It took a lot of counseling and healing. I read Susan Sanford's Rue's book on post-abortal syndrome, because at the same time, I realized not only had I murdered other people's children, I had murdered my own child. And, thankfully I had counseling available. Now that process wasn't very long for me.
Damn.
Because I guess God put me on the fast track and said, okay, well, you're going to get healed because this is what you need to do. And I just said, okay, whatever you want me to do, I'll do.
And see, that's why people will say it's just a religious position, because when people become more religious, they find God, they find Christ, they realize that it's wrong. So then the other non-religious people who still think it's okay are like, the only reason you believe that is because it's a religious a religious thing. But that's not even true because there's atheists, there's libertarians, there's lefties that still realize that it's wrong because our morals are inherent in us. They are embedded in us from birth. That's one of the ways you know God is real. No matter how much people deny him, they can't ground their morals. They can't justify why they think, they'll say no harm principle as long as it doesn't do harm. So then you just ask them, well, what about necrophilia? What about having sex with a corpse? Why is that wrong? You're not harming anybody. And they'll say, well, it harms you. Not if you like it. What if you like it? What if it makes you feel good? Like if you watch Andrew Wilson's debate with Dave Smith, as well as his debate he just did. I don't think it released on the Crucible. I think he did it on Twitter, but it popped up on my feed the other night. He debated another libertarian guy and went to the same question. And they can't answer it. They dodge the question because if they're being consistent, they're going to have to admit that when you look at the world that way, whether you're a moral subjectivist or like a libertarian, no harm principle type of person who has no God in their life, you can't justify right or wrong if it's not harming somebody. So if you dehumanize a baby and call it a fetus, think of it like an animal or a bug or just a clump of cells, then you can trick yourself into thinking there's nothing wrong with killing it. But deep down we all know,
And
unless you've been given over to a reprobate mind, and then all of that is taken away, all that is gone. I don't know if I want to talk about this tomorrow, gender affirming care. I did a bunch of research on gender affirming care. So I think I'm going to start trying to do like Jake the Rattlesnake quartering type videos, like little 10 to 15-minute videos where there's a video, something gets popular, and then I do like a little short review of the video and interject, pull up some articles and do like a short thing and just release the video. Um, it seems like a easy. I've always knocked reaction content. Like I always thought reaction content was lame. But now I kind of do it. But I feel like if you're doing it while you're streaming, it's different. But it is an easy way to grow your channel. Like if there's a viral clip of Trump saying something and it's a 6-minute clip, I turn that into a 10-minute video and I add a little bit of commentary in. It's really easy content. And I don't know. I guess if you're not reacting to like dumb shit, then I'm trying to justify it, but I don't really like it, but I don't know. That seems what you got to do. That's what the quartering does. And they put out like 3 videos a day of them just and Asmongold, um, just reacting to stuff. Um, but if I do it, I'm gonna do it more like informative. So like there's this 6-minute clip of Trump that I'm gonna play on the show tomorrow talking about how there's not gonna be any more gender affirming care. He's gonna get rid of all that crap. So I would like play the video and then pause it and come in and explain what gender affirming care is, what it entails, the origins of it, Simone de Beauvoir and John Money, and a little quick dive into them and what their beliefs were and things they did, then play a little more of the video. Have you seen those people who will take a viral clip and place themselves I know, I know, it's so dumb. I know exactly what you're talking about. I can't stand that. Yeah, Elderline. Yeah, I think that's the formula. Like the Jake the Rattlesnake quartering Asmongold, that formula where you just release these videos in mass, like these short videos where you're just talking about something for 10 minutes. And then in a stream, do like deep dives into it. But anyway, the point is, so Trump just did his thing on how we're going to do no more gender affirming care. Teachers aren't going to talk to kids. Teachers aren't going to be allowed to even talk to kids about this sort of thing. And I was like, based, let's go. So I have all this research on gender affirming care in this folder. I don't really want to talk about that tomorrow night. I don't know what I'm going to wrap the show up with for the last hour tomorrow. I don't have anything interesting on deck other than that. I need to find more rapid fire news too, because there's been no rapid fire news all week. It's just been election stuff. So first hour of the show tomorrow will be post election stuff, exit polling, lib freakouts, what's changing already. Then memes, reels, rapid fire. I guess I just need to Google oddity news. That's always a good one, oddities. They just don't update these very often. Let's see what AP has for oddities. 43 monkeys? I heard about this. Oh, I heard about this. Let's talk about this tomorrow. I'm not going to go deep into it, but 43 monkeys escaped from a lab in South Carolina. Get ready for the next freaking monkey flu, monkey virus. What the? They're still on the run. They haven't caught these dang monkeys yet. Okay, we'll do that story for sure. We need to find more rapid fire news, so let's see. Monkeys escaping the lab. Last time creatures escaped from a lab, the whole world got shut down for 2 years. So this could be a bad thing. You see that Trump sipping video? Sipping? Nah. Teachers have no business scheduling woke BS or any politics. Agree. Yeah, I heard some teacher doing like an interview and she's like, I understand that I shouldn't talk to kids about this, but one day one of my students asked me, um, what'd she say? She said her student asked her what transgender meant or something like that, which kids would not even be asking this if it wasn't all in their face all the time. But the kid asked the teacher and the teacher's like, well, what do I say? How do I explain it? And it's like, you just say that's a weirdo. Just say, don't worry about that. That's like a weirdo. that's that's why I couldn't be a teacher. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you're a teacher and your student asks you this. They've heard this word. They're looking to you for knowledge and information. What do you tell them? You just say, talk to your parents about it, I guess. But I'd just be like, that's just a weirdo. You don't want to be like that person. I asked a teacher what is gay, and they told me to ask my mom and dad. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that's that should just be the go-to response. If it's something and these teachers are like, I can't do my job now. Oh my God. What am I gonna do if I can't have my rainbow flag in class? Trump's been putting all over Twitter these like polls. He said, should we take rainbow flags and BLM flags out of classrooms? Yes, I voted yes to that. Should we take rainbow flags out of government buildings? Yes. Yeah. Every year for Pride Month, our mayor puts a giant rainbow flag out in front of the city county building, and the Utah flag and the American flag go under it. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I think I've seen it at the top. Sometimes it's at the bottom. It goes both ways. But you have the American flag, the Utah state flag, and then the rainbow flag, and it's not a political thing. That's social messaging, social political messaging being advertised by a government building. They they should not be allowed to do that. This country is like an adventure every day. It's a JS Urban adventure every day. Okay, we need more oddities. What do we got? Ruby slippers from Wizard of Oz are on sale for nearly 2 decades after they were stolen. They're probably remakes. I don't even believe it. I think I already showed the baby hippo before. We got some murderer released in Florida. This is all boring. Bolivian artist.
There I was in the pro-life movement.
I keep hearing about unwanted children. There are maybe about 1 million abortions a year. We haven't got a clue how many abortions there are out there. I did 1,200 abortions. The only ones I reported to the state with death certificates are the ones I did in hospitals. That means 1,000 abortions I did by myself. Never got it reported to anybody. But beyond.
Damn. I've never heard that. I figured there's probably a lot more that aren't recorded because the number I heard last night was Glenn read it. It was like 670,000, but that might have just been elective ones because he was looking up the numbers. He said something like 92% are elective. And it was like 660,000, probably 666,666. So there's a lot that aren't reported. So I'm sure it's in the millions just in America. Crazy. Crazy.
Beyond that, I'm talking about 1 million a year. Well, in any given year, there's about 2 million people out there with infertility who are desperate to.
I will look that up. Did I ban you from the Discord the other night, Nada? I don't know. I was drunk as shit. That was embarrassing. I am embarrassed and not happy about how my first 24-hour stream went. Next time we do a 24-hour stream, maybe for midterm elections, I'll drink some beer. At like the 12-hour point, I'll start drinking beer. But I got way too drunk. I was being an asshole to everybody. Granted, I wasn't the only one being an asshole. Everybody was being an ass. I think we were all way too drunk. And it was just like any special guests that I invited, if they came by the stream, like maybe I'll jump on there and we're watching, they're probably like, no, this is retarded. I'm not gonna go on this stream. And it was embarrassing. I'm not happy about how the second half of that stream went. I don't think so. Have you seen the show, John? And I owe Caldy. I've talked to Caldy because he did send me money to kick that chick out. And I remember trying to, and she kept jumping back in, and then she just stayed quiet for a while, and I forgot about it. And then she started talking again, and Caldy was not happy about that. And I messaged him, and I was like, I'm sorry, I'll send you your money back. I was drunk. And he's like, no, keep the money. I was drunk too. But I am, next time she joins, I'm just going to kick her out. I'm not going to ban her, but I'm going to kick her out of the Discord immediately and say, I owe this to Caldy. If you jump back in, you're banned. But for one stream, you're not allowed to join in because Caldy paid for it. And I told him if he paid for it, I would do it. So normally I wouldn't. I don't really like doing that sort of thing, but I said it. And I like to do what I say I'm going to do. But I was really drunk. And when I'm drunk, I'm an asshole. So, so I owe Caldy a removal of Cat next time she joins the Discord. Not a permaban, just got to kick her out. Have you seen the show John Adams? Well, thank you, Amanda. I don't know. I went back and listened to some of it, and I couldn't even listen to it. I was like, this is embarrassing. It's not professional. It was. To be fair, though, we knew Trump won. I thought that we weren't going to find out who won till the morning, so we were going to talk politics all night. We were going to be watching for fraud. We were going to be doing all this involved stuff about the election. We knew he won halfway through the stream, and we all just started celebrating. So So the second half, we're all just faded. 5,000 messages. They were going wild in your Discord. 5,000 messages. I know. I wasn't reading. I wasn't keeping up. They still are. That cursed guy joined, and I think he left the Discord last night because him and Stepfire, he posted some blasphemous meme, and I was like, that's dumb. And then Stepfire started like trying to debate him, and he ended up leaving the Discord. And I was like, whatever. How you gonna? You know, you see when you come to my stream, this flag says Jesus is my savior, Trump is my president. So you know, the majority of the people in the Discord and on the panels are Christian conservatives. You know, we party, we get loose, but the majority of us are Christians and conservatives, voters, Trump voters. So if you come in and you say something like, I don't care about politics, I'm not voting, and I don't believe in God, I'm an atheist, you're going to get roasted. You're welcome here, but you're going to get roasted. Just know that. Like, so so what do you expect? Read the room, you know? That's why Buff still hangs out and Buff's still in the Discord because he realized real quick when he's on my stream, he doesn't do that, "Oh, you're a god" like stuff anymore because he reads the room. He's like, okay, they don't like that here. And if I do it, then I better be ready to defend my ideas and or just get roasted. And I guess that cursed guy didn't understand that. So he got mad and he left the other night. Darn. Have you seen the show John Adams? I've seen clips on YouTube. It seems quite interesting. Uh-uh. Enjoys the show depiction of Europe at the time, particularly the Dutch. Nah, I haven't seen it. Yeah, Discord is a little bit confusing. Blasphemy in front when I'm sober, I won't say anything. Blasphemy in front of me when I'm drunk, and there's no telling what I would say. Yeah, yeah. Well, he wasn't talking that night. He was in the disc. He was in there that night, and he wasn't talking. I remember at one point I called him out. I was like, "Cursed, I see you're here. Why aren't you talking?" He's like, "I'm just listening." But he was posting tons of stuff in the Discord, and he's like, he messaged me, and he was like, "Is this okay that I'm posting so much?" I was like, "I don't care what you post, but I didn't say this, but I was thinking it. You post something stupid, we're gonna call you on it." You know. John Adams is a good show, and the book is great. Yeah, I'm gonna be listening to some counter messaging. I want to listen to The Handmaid's Tale. You guys got to see the house down the street. I put it in the Discord. Um, so in the lead up to Halloween, they had one skeleton behind a Kamala Harris sign, and then right before Halloween, they changed it, and they had two skeletons. One had a red shirt, one had a blue shirt, and then one skeleton sitting at a table with a ballot box, and it said ballots, and it had a go vote sign and a Kamala Harris sign, and these two skeletons are holding ballots. I thought it was ironic because I was like, yeah, there are a lot of dead Kamala supporters, probably. I guess not. I guess not this year. The dead people didn't show up. The cats and the dogs, even the dead people, were like, no, I'm not voting Democrat this time. But so anyway, the day after the election, they changed all the skeletons. Now, instead of a ballot box, the ballot box is gone. The one at the table is reading a book. And the two standing up, they're all wearing Handmaid's Tale robes and the little hats. And I think I read Handmaid's Tale when I was younger, or I don't know. I know the story, Margaret Atwood, crazy feminist, but I'm gonna listen to it on tape or audiobook on my phone. I want to listen to that, and I want to listen to Atlas Shrugged because I heard Andrew talking about Atlas Shrugged and how it's not good, then I hear a lot of people talking about how it is good. I think it's like libertarian stuff. So I'm gonna listen to Atlas Shrugged and Handmaid's Tale. But I gotta go to work, guys. Apparently, The Handmaid's Tale was written by an atheist, so you can already imagine the viewpoints and perspectives shared in literature, why it's heralded by certain people. I'm pretty sure she was an atheist, and I know she was a feminist. Yeah, there's a show. There's a Handmaid's Tale show and a movie, I think, too. But I'm going to listen to the audiobook, waste 10 hours of my life while I'm at work. I'm not pro audiobook. I don't like audiobooks. I don't think it counts as reading a book. But I do understand the benefits of it, which is found time, meaning when it's hard to find time to read, you can more easily find time to listen to an audiobook. While I'm working, I can listen to an audiobook. I would just rather just read the book, but I don't have time to sit down and read for 2 hours every day. Atlas Shrugged is a good criticism of communism, but its objectivism is bad. Yeah, that's what Andrew was saying. He was saying it was a corporate, it pushed like corporatism, and I know she was pro-capitalism, but it's also, from what I've heard, it's very libertarian, like individual truths and individual morals, and kind of like a utilitarian type of view, no harm stuff. So I don't know. I'm gonna listen to it. I haven't read it. Yep, I gotta go. Last night of work, and then I get 2 days off. Hallelujah. I'm gonna go ride my. I could go a little longer because I got my little scooter. I got an electric scooter. It looks pretty cool. I haven't ridden it yet. I'm gonna make a review of it. It's been a while since I've done a review video. I'm gonna have to review it. So we're gonna go ride it. See how it works. It's supposed to go 20 miles an hour, which the birds and the birds only go like 13 miles an hour. I remember when they first came out with these scooters that they leave everywhere, which I think there's kind of a problem with this, but because there's just scooters everywhere. Anyway, when they first came out with them, those things were going 23 miles per hour, and then they like governed all of them, and now the fastest you get on one is like 15, but the one I bought goes 20. And I've seen some videos on YouTube about how to take that governor off, get that thing going faster, but I don't know if I'm going to do that. I don't like messing with my technology. So if I screw it up, then I wasted a bunch of money. I thought you said you were homeless. I was homeless. Go watch if you go to my videos and scroll down to the bottom and then work your way from the bottom up, you'll see. I was homeless like 5 years ago. And I've been doing this channel for like 6 years. So when I started the channel, I was homeless. Yeah. Not anymore. This is a success story, baby. I gotta go. I gotta go. Have a good night, everybody. God bless. I'll see you later.